Clone Trooper faces have always been a bit of a point of contention. Sometimes the likenesses have been pretty decent, and for the longest time we lived with this head sculpt. This head sculpt is not even based off of Tamora Morrison, but rather the likeness of Bodhi Taylor, and it's not even that good of a likeness at that. This is the head that we saw for nearly a decade, if not about a decade, but thankfully in recent years Hasbro has given us a new Tamora Morrison Clone Trooper head sculpt. And Patreon Clone Commander 3 tiers more, otherwise known as the Nomad, he decided that for his request, he wanted me to discuss the new Clone Trooper heads. I did make a video showcasing the old pre-new sculpt and face printing Clone Trooper heads if you want to check that out, but today I'm overviewing the new head sculpts that we have gotten. So I'm showing off this one first because this is the old head sculpt, but with the face printing added to it. Let's just bring in what it's been replaced with. Look at that new likeness right there. That is stunning. That is Tamora Morrison. It's very awesome that they have updated the head and not only made it larger, but also it's Tamora Morrison now. It's so great. Because even though like the smaller head I do feel like made it better for the Phase 1 helmet to fit on the head, I felt like it just, the Phase 2 helmets just, floated around. Here, a little bit of a spoiler. Here's Captain Hauser's helmet. That's just floating around, but it actually fits pretty nice on these. I'm so happy we're getting a new mold, because the whole mold definitely has been long overdue for a replacement. Let me find the Phase 1 helmet. I know it's floating around somewhere. See, putting the Phase 1 helmet on this new head, it's definitely a tight fit. So I do feel like this small head does kind of work for the Phase 1s, especially since they're supposed to be younger troopers. But this right here is the main Phase 2 clone head we have seen. This head has seen Quevwol. What's a Quevwol? This head has seen several uses so far. This is the latest use with a 332nd Trooper, and again, it looks great. I do have to point out, though, its oddest use. They reused this head sculpt with a full head of hair for the Bad Batch Captain Rex. I consider this a very odd choice. I don't know why they gave Captain Rex a full head of hair. But you can see it's still a very good likeness. It definitely looks like Tamora Morrison. I think it does a great job. But this was not the correct head to use for Captain Rex. We actually have quite a few new heads. There's a total of 5 new Clone Trooper head sculpts that have come out. And the last one I'm going to discuss is one I currently don't even have in hand, but I technically do. So this is the standard one. I really do enjoy it. I think it looks really great. It's probably my favorite out of all of them. But next, I want to compare it to another fairly standard one, and one we've seen on a few figures now. It is Echo's head. Echo's head was also reused for the Gaming Greats ARC Troopers. You can see there is a bit of a difference to the likeness. I feel like the likeness isn't as great. On top of that, this new ARC Trooper mold is oddly shorter than the newer molds. Despite that, one prominent difference with these heads, you can see this one has a more natural haircut, while this kind of has the animated crew cut. You can see the distinct line where the top meets the front of the hair. It's a good likeness. I definitely think it's way better than much of what we've seen in the past. But I don't feel like it's there at every single angle. Like, you can tell it's a clone, it's Tamora Morrison, but it's not as spot on, in my opinion, as this one. This one, to me, is definitely the definitive head. You can see the paint qualities are different on some of them as well. Like this Echo, the eyes aren't as bright and white as on the 332nd. Honestly, I'm inclined to say that the eyes on the Echo look better. But again, I've noticed depending on the release, especially on this new Trooper head that we've seen on a few figures already, it either doesn't look as good or doesn't look as bad. It's interesting. There is another ARC Trooper head, and that would be Jesse's head, because Jesse doesn't have any hair, he just has the tattoo. And I think Jesse's head looks pretty great. I do feel like the likeness is a little different and a little better than the Echo head. However, I definitely feel like the paint deco on this one's kind of odd. I don't know why, but to me it's always kind of looked like he's had a bit of eyeshadow. Maybe that's just me. But still, I do like this head. I just kind of feel like it looks a bit young. Comparing it to this head, I definitely feel like the ARC Trooper heads just look a little bit young, but still the likeness is superb. It looks pretty great. Compared to, let's just bring it back in again, compared to what we had for a while, Yeah, the likeness is very nice. However, we still have two more heads to discuss. One of which is, again, on the vintage collection style body, and that would be Captain Hauser. Personally, I think it's very cool that Hauser ended up with his own head sculpt. I think it looks, again, pretty spot on. I think out of all of them, it actually does have some of the best likeness. It has more character to it because it is character specific. I just think it looks really good. I mean, comparing it to that head, you can see it's supposed to be the same person. I mean, they're clones. I just think it does a really good job. I mean, panning through all the heads so far again, I think they're looking pretty good. I think this new head is definitely pretty definitive. However, there's one head that I also have to talk about, and I can only show a picture right now because even though the set is starting to get in some people's hands, it is not currently in my hands. It is the Phase 1 Troopa Builder set, and the Clone Lieutenant in that set is pretty angry. It is this angry head sculpt, and I can't really put my finger on why they did this. And the oddest thing is that even though this is the first time the head is being used on an actual clone, I have it with the Elite Corps Trooper. And you may be wondering, oh, why isn't the helmet off? Why can't you show us? The head is glued inside the helmet. And it's funny because this isn't even a clone trooper character. But yeah, the head is glued inside the helmet. I've tried to get it out. I would rather not damage my figure to do so. It is cast in just the same dark gray black plastic. It's so odd that they included this new and unique head with this trooper. And if you don't believe me, here's a picture of someone who did remove this helmet, and you can see, yeah, it's that weird angry sculpt. It's definitely, in my opinion, the worst out of all of the new sculpts. I kind of appreciate it, though, because of the diversity. I just think that expression is pretty weird. I would have preferred it if there was like a smiling clone, you know, someone a little more cocky than some of the other troopers. I think that would have been pretty cool. But this is like full on, like super, like grr. It's so funny. He's not even like, you know, he's just so mad. He looks so grumpy. He's a grumpy clone. It's a very interesting likeness. Despite that, though, I really do appreciate these new likenesses. Like I said, it has come a pretty long way. I'm pretty happy with these. I just want to bring in one old trooper to compare how these likenesses looked back around 2005. This was our best Tamora Morrison likeness back then. So you can see, it's not bad. Like, you can tell who it's supposed to be, but comparing it to what we have now, that is quite the difference. I've always seen this one as kind of like the blank stare trooper. Like, his mouth is slightly agape and he's just kind of staring off into space. While the new ones look like miniature men. You know, they look like an actual little mini figure of... They look great, basically. If you watched one of my previous videos, I did a video showing off 10 of the best likenesses that Hasbro Star Wars has done so far. And they have made some incredible likenesses. They really have. They look incredible. And I think that these clone likenesses of Tamora Morrison are among the best. In my opinion, I think the best is probably going to be the Standard Trooper, and the next best, in my opinion, is probably Hauser's. I think Hauser's is pretty great. I do have one issue, though. So, obviously, you know, the Airborne Trooper, you know, he's got a helmet. I think it looks pretty good. And also the body it's an older body. It's a little bulkier. I think it proportionally fits. The new Troopers, I've talked about this many times, but I'm going to talk about it just a little bit again. They still use these giant helmets that just totally, like, cover everything. And I feel like the size of the helmets really draws back from what these should be. And if you're wondering, I actually did modify. I got another Jesse, and I modified it so it doesn't have the fin anymore. Yeah, the helmets are huge still. They're enormous. I'm not a fan. I am very much looking forward to the new sculpt. But my question is the new sculpt of Phase 2 Trooper that they have previewed and like a pipeline reveal, is it going to have a removable helmet? I hope the answer is yes. but I am unsure. One final massive helmet comparison. There's a Rex right there. So yeah, you can see the likenesses are great, but you are left with the large helmets when you have the helmets on. It's unfortunate, it really is. And going back to the Phase 1, I feel like the Phase 1 troopers, since they have smaller helmets, they look better. I feel like they look better with this mold. I actually wouldn't mind if this mold remained with Phase 1, while Phase 2 got a new mold. I love clone trooper figures, but man, if I had $1 for every single time one of them is just very quickly skidded off the table and landed flat on their back. So there we go. There's a little discussion on the new clone trooper likenesses. I think they're great. I think they've done a great job with this new likeness, but they're still putting it on old bodies, and I'm really, really hoping the new Phase 2 body is great, but still retains these awesome heads. We'll see. Fingers crossed. I'm really liking them. I'm actually, in my collection before, I only took off helmets if you couldn't differentiate characters unless they had the helmet off. But I'm actually starting to have some of the troopers with, you know, this nice head sculpt with a helmet off, because it just looks so nice. I want to see this head. Alrighty, guys. Let me know what you think about these new head sculpts. I think they're great. They're definitely a step up from what we used to have. And I'm really looking forward to taking a closer look at the angry head. And don't worry, when I get that set, I will be sure to go in depth on that angry head. I think that set also has a redeco of Hauser's head, if I'm not mistaken. They actually repurposed his head for a clone. Alrighty, guys, there we go. Thank you so much for watching. Special shout out to the patrons at Patreon, such as 3 tiers more, for requesting this. I really appreciate all the support. Alrighty, guys, there we go. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.